Greg Cothouse, alternates.
Whitney,
Whitney Banker, alternate and recording secretary.
and on Teams? Who do we
Eric
have?
Russell.
Okay, hello, Eric, we can hear you.
Good. I finally got to get working.
Can you hear us? Yeah, you must.
Yes, I can.
Okay, hey, we can even see you now.
Good.
Thank you. We apologize for the late start. This is not our usual meeting day. Usually the planning board meets on the second and fourth Wednesdays of the month. This is the third Wednesday because nobody wanted to meet on Christmas or Christmas Eve, whatever. So we rearranged the schedule, and after we did that, we discovered that there was another meeting, not the visiting nurses, the community nurse committee was meeting in here. So we're just a little bit late in getting started.
I don't know the gentleman who's in view there, but is he part of the hearing coming up?
I
I
don't,
ask is, might want to make the announcement about turning the video off.
no, I think he just did. Oh, no, he
Yeah.
didn't. Mr. Hurst, can you hear us?
Yes, you want video off? Okay.
Please. Where was I? Oh, so a little announcement, for people who are not aware, after our most recent meeting, Brad Rich handed in his letter of resignation. No reason given. We are into a search mode for people who would like to fill that position. Nate Miller in the back there, who some of you may remember from his role in the town many years ago, has applied. And the select board will be evaluating any applications at I think at their second meeting in January, and I don't have the date on that. Am I correct on that, Eric?
Yeah, so it'll end up being our first meeting in January because the January 6th meeting has been canceled. So it'll be whatever the third Monday in January is.
Okay, thanks for that information, Eric. I appreciate it. Okay, so
Is the alternates, how do they factor into that vacancy?
if the alternates wish to apply, if somebody from the community wishes to apply, there's a form on the town website. They fill it out, send it in, and that's the first step. And it would be evaluated by the select board and probably myself and Rob. The whole procedure is a little bit foggy to me because apparently the procedure was changed in the last year or so. I don't know exactly when. So anyhow, let's get on to public hearings. Land use case P 24-12-01. Joseph and Laureen Barnes are seeking boundary line adjustment approval to reconfigure their lot lines. Subject property is 2.96 acres and is located at 41 Stevens Street, map 31, lot 57-1 in the R1 zoning district. Parcel is owned by Joseph and Laureen. Laureen, are you coming up to speak or is it Joseph?
Mary Magdalene, my husband Jim, we're in-laws to Joseph and our daughter Laureen.
Okay,
Joe and his family are sick, but I know he's been trying to be on, so
Is he on the city? He is on.
So,
I'm
Uh,
I'm on the meeting.
He's on.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So he is there to answer any questions, but I understand you need to see 5 maps.
Yeah, we'd love to share those with our crew here. I think that's.
Okay. Can go this way.
Whitney, would you note that Linda came in and got it? I'm so efficient.
I know.
I know. Don't
This is
don't
the-
complain.
Yes, you're not.
I promise you, this is the
Yeah.
absolute last scheduling screw up of this year.
Yes. Exactly.
Jim, do you have one? Okay. And why don't we share there? Everybody have copies now that needs them?
You have, 11/17. Follow along in the audience too.
Okay,
See.
Oh,
Make yourself at home.
thanks.
That's the old one. It's not the same kind of picture.
so, what we do for a boundary line adjustment is we ask you to point out the salient features, where the boundary line is now,
Okay,
and where it is going to be if we approve the adjustment.
okay.
So
If,
the floor is yours.
if you come from where it says Stephen Street, you'll follow down, there's a driveway, and that is all on the existing 41, Stephen Street property. And if you go to the right of it, there's a broken line that's about 25 feet from the center of Stephen Street. And if you come over, there are 2 little pins. And then it comes down, straight down, and the other lines are pretty evident. The Stephen Street house is back off of the driveway. And the parcel originally belonged to this Thomas and Stefanik, and they would go up this narrow piece of driveway and own up here too, which was really awkward. So they have agreed to do a boundary line agreement, and it now cuts off so that their property goes straight till it hits the right old 41 Stephen Street, and that other part becomes part of the Barnes property. So they are gaining just under a half an acre up at the top, right opposite our house. It's making a cleaner subdivision,
Oh,
and it doesn't have them owning this little tiny piece up here that they don't really want.
Okay, questions from board members?
Well,
yeah.
I have no idea what she just showed.
Oh.
No,
Want me to show you?
No,
You sure?
no, it needs to be either on the screen or
It's up
put
there.
up on the boards and you follow along, and we follow your finger
Oh,
or
You want me to-
something, because
Well,
I can go up there and show you what I mean.
I guess I've got an issue anyways, even if you do it, is the road frontage piece.
right, well, yeah, I got,
Because you've gotta have, what is it on an R1, 50 feet? Yeah, 50 feet of road frontage for each of those lots on Stevens Street.
That's not the case right
Yes.
now.
Yeah, so that issue was settled back when the lot was subdivided originally.
Right,
And the agreement at that time was to forego that requirement for actually both the A and B parcel in exchange for ensuring that the private driveway was the equivalent width of a public road. And so that work
Okay.
was done back when that other parcel, what is now 50 and 68 Stevens Street, was subdivided at that time. Because you'll see neither of those 2 parcels actually have any frontage today. And when it got subdivided, that was, again, an issue. And that's how it was resolved.
that doesn't carry through to future subdivisions.
Yeah, well, it's not really a
creating-
subdivision,
you're
right? It's a
creating-
property line adjustment, but yeah.
You're creating basically a new lot, and I don't know where.
No, we're not creating a new
I
lot.
don't know where the new line is located, because I couldn't able to follow what line's being deleted and what line is being created.
Sure.
Isn't
So we're not creating a new lot, by the way. So we're just merging, right, removing the existing property line to merge that upper lot to the existing 41 lot. But Mary, if you can go up on the screen and just show them how the new line gets drawn.
Well, we have two different plats here also. So the one that's shown on the screen is not the one, the large format that's sitting on the table.
Yes, it is.
We got two different names here in the blocks.
The one on the screen is the exhibit that was attached to the original agreement when we agreed to do the property line adjustment. The map that you have is a function of the surveyor coming and having done the actual map that would get recorded. But the idea is that they would be, the one on the screen was the approximation, right, for purposes of entering into the agreement to move the property line. And obviously then we needed to follow up with a proper survey. And so that's the one in front of you.
Okay. Oh,
Rob, could you? I'm subject to David's approval. Wonder if you could summarize what's happening here up on the screen,
Who are you asking
Me?
to?
Rob.
Rob,
Okay.
I didn't follow it either.
no, do you wanna go up?
I'm comfortable with it if you want.
I followed that one. Should also show the GIS, which I think shows existing conditions.
Okay, the existing property coming off of Stevens Street is from here, went down to here, 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 and this is this part of, oh, come on, that's wrong place. Sorry about that. Here, 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 and it's the,
So this is all
I'm
one
lost,
lot.
it is, it's here, this
all
is
one
where
lot.
it is, right,
This is all one lot now. This
that whole
thing.
piece, right.
Right, so it has this lot here. It's got a
And-
has this piece that goes with it
Exactly.
right now, currently. Right. This guy right here, Joe Barnes.
Right, yes.
Bruce, it says.
How does it say Bruce?
Well,
Where's
it's
his line?
that, Barbara and Esther Bruce used to own.
That used to be the
property,
ones that
and Marie and
property.
Joe bought it from them,
Barnes wants this piece of land.
Exactly.
That is yellow to go with this lot. Should be right on that map. So the confusion, I think,
It
is
is.
coming from the fact that they provided us with a map that was not really. An old map. A good map.
So
Here's Barnes.
we've got two parcels now, and we're gonna end up with two parcels.
Right, we're not
Correct.
creating any new lots. It's a lot line adjustments. You're changing the lines.
I'm saying on the large plat, boundary lines to be eliminated, and you have two dash lines, but I don't see where the new lines.
Where's the other one to be eliminated?
I see one.
I'm not seeing the line to be created. Other than just a line being eliminated.
because the lines that are there were already there belonging to Stefanik and, Thomas.
So the only new line is the equivalent, if you look on the one on the screen, is the equivalent of the red one that goes vertical from the, I guess it's the B lot.
Oh, little one. That
That
little one.
that little short line, and then the line that gets eliminated is the line that kind of follows alongside the road there. That creates, that forms that one side of the yellow highlighted area.
Yeah, that's all. it's
And
at.
that yellow highlighted area becomes part of the 41 Stevens Street property.
Okay. These two.
Oh, this boundary line gets eliminated.
Right.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
These
Yeah.
join. So this,
It just
It's
brings
this
the
line.
property
It's
across the
here.
driveway
Right.
to
This
the
line.
next, property on
It's right
Wells
next to this.
Street.
parcel goes with this lot.
What about this guy here?
So this
'Cause that-
Property-
That's also a line.
is currently part of this
lot
lot.
actually has land on the other side of the street already.
Only
Yeah,
to,
but-
right now, it's only, let me say,
No, it's not all of it.
That one.
And that is not this thing here.
Walk me through the whole thing.
The current line of this property is right here. It is 25 feet
Well, that
in
means
from the
that
middle of Stevens Street
Okay.
to here.
Served no purpose.
This piece here, along with this piece here, belong to this,
Right.
but it's
Okay.
not, then this is their line. Okay, it went down here. across.
Yeah.
That point.
Now it's just gonna go straight across, so this is their property, and this
From
piece
this
here
point
will
To that point, there's a line.
adjoin
There was no indication that line disappeared.
Barnes.
So this one has no road frontage on Stevens Street then.
No, it never
has to
has.
be shown on the plat.
Well, it had to have, because it was a part of this, wasn't it? It had this.
Oh, yes,
It had
Survey
that.
needed
yeah,
to,
it's the Commonwealths
It
who
would-
never have,
Right.
and the Barnes have never had.
This is just
Well, we can
got
make-
driveway
You make
on the
the
drive.
condition approval.
Right. It's a driveway
Yeah.
down to, with right of way
One
on
more
the
arrow.
property.
Okay.
right.
Which brings up the question then, how many driveways are now on this gravel road?
The same as
So-
before.
Yeah, so as it exists today, there are 3 houses off that driveway, 41, 72, and 50. And
Yeah.
as it exists now forward, there's 3 lots, 41, 72, and what's it, 41, 72, and 50, or yeah, 50, sorry, I'm saying that wrong. I apologize. There are 4 lots off that driveway. 41, 72, 68, and 50. And there will be after this, the same 4 lots off that driveway. And this
What?
issue, sorry, yeah,
There is 56B's frontage then.
there is none, and and there never was. Right, so there isn't any today, and there won't be any tomorrow, right, if you approve this. Same with 72, there was never before, and there won't be after. And
Yeah.
the same with 50, there was never before and won't be after. And this issue came up again when they subdivided
The Stinsons.
50 from 68.
Yeah,
And that's why the stipulation when they did that subdivision was that the private drive from Stevens Street down to where the driveway for 50 connects with the shared driveway, so the private driveway for 60 connects with the shared driveway, that we had to widen the shared driveway to a public road width.
Okay.
50 is it?
When the Stinsons subdivided
He's
for
talking about-
the B lot,
I remember it.
I remember coming in and arguing that there wasn't
I'm not
supposed to be an
finding what I'm saying.
additional on the
That's right.
driveway, but the board approved it.
And we're not,
Okay.
this does not change those facts, right?
No.
So,
Doesn't change the fact that
There it is on our GIS. You can see the
Yeah.
lot
Yeah,
yeah,
in question.
I know.
Kind of
Okay.
a boomerang.
and this
Right.
map is a little deceiving because this map implies that Stevens Street extends into the property. When
Right.
you actually when you go to the deed, it actually doesn't. The property line goes across where Stevens Street intersects with the property. So there was never really any frontage
Right.
for either of those lots, right?
Okay,
so we're really not,
we can't, yeah.
Bert or Jim? Anything?
Well, I have problems with, still trying to confuse as to I think I understand what's you're proposing, but without road frontage is an issue. But then there's also a boundary line that's not marked as being anything that's implied to eliminated, but not marked as much.
There's one that's being eliminated because it's being moved, basically. That's the
Well,
lot line
here's-
adjustment.
No, there's 3 lines. 2 of them are marked as being eliminated. A section in the middle is unmarked.
So to fix that, maybe just a conditional
Yeah.
note that
Just
Yeah.
fix the lines so that it shows which ones are being eliminated and where the new ones are,
Yeah,
Right.
which has got to be on the plat anyways.
I mean, I guess there's only one new line and then half of one line being eliminated and the other line being eliminated, right? So,
Right,
Yeah, it just needs to be, a little bit more clear
on the plat.
on the plat.
Because
so
it's
that-
only showing this
Yeah.
one and you want it showing this one
You
as
want it-
well.
Well, in order for you to do the plat, you're gonna have to what it finally looks like. There shouldn't be any dotted line saying there's eliminated and all of that. It's gonna be what it looks like when it's finished.
Right.
Oh, so you don't show the existing line? Is
Not
that
on
what
the
you're
final
saying?
plat.
Not on the final.
Not
And
on the
it,
final
and it
plat.
could be, he hasn't done the Mylar until you
Yeah,
approve
he
it.
probably hasn't done it until we approved it, because the line might have moved.
Correct.
Okay,
And if you're going to refer to them as number something, Stevens Street, that's not on here, so. So if you're gonna refer to them like that, at least put it on the map for us, because this says map 31 lot 57-1, which I still don't know.
So you want this to be, say, 41 Stevens
Well,
Street on, underneath that?
yeah, because it's not on Stevens.
Oh, well,
It's on a side, it's basically, if
okay,
you pass here, it's a driveway.
But the address is
But the
41
address
is
Stevens Street, yes.
The address is there,
And so on the,
Oh,
but your GPS doesn't
if
say
you
that.
are using that as a reference point,
Right,
you need to have it there, because I
Right.
couldn't figure out where those four
Right.
numbers were.
right,
They're not here.
right.
But if you're not referring to them like that, then you don't have to do that.
it was our understanding that you put the map and
You
lot.
put the map and lot,
It's just the gentleman on the screen was referring to probably the 911 street address number.
Right.
Which is not on here. That's where we were getting. confused.
that's where we're getting
Yeah.
confused.
yeah, my fault for not being rehearsed at this. Sorry, guys. Yep.
That's,
Yeah, that's all it is, yeah. So, yeah, so your final plat's going to have what the lines are going to be when you're finished, after it's either been approved or conditionally approved or whatever.
Okay,
Anything else from the board? Questions from the public on this? People here? People on Teams? Anybody listening in or watching in have any questions or comments on this proposal? Hearing none, I close the public hearing. Discussion from board members? Motion?
I make a motion, we approve the lot line adjustment as proposed.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
so
Motion made by Dan, seconded by Tim. Since we're on Teams, we'll do a roll call vote, starting with Eric. How do you vote?
Eric, yes.
Linda,
Linda, yes?
Dan,
Yes,
Tim,
yes.
Kurt,
Yes.
I vote yes. Approved unanimously.
thank you very much.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Okay.
You just need to get us a Mylar.
He said he will do that as soon as,
Amended.
so do I just tell him, do you want the 41, the number, the actual address on it?
Yeah.
Okay, and then just remove the temporary lines that are involved with it. Okay.
I didn't elevate anything.
I don't think it's not bad. We don't serve one cup of salt.
Okay,
So there's three.
so, we have no conceptual.
I'll put one of these in for him.
And for our next hearing, which is, our public hearing on our second phase of the master plan, which we've been working on for about a year, second phase. I'm going to elevate both Whitney and Kurt to be voting members on this.
Okay, you start.
And let's see, who's here from the master plan committee? I am.
You.
Celie, you are.
It's online.
Joellen's online.
Well,
Bridget.
Bridget,
Bridget's online.
okay. Who else?
Shirley,
Shirley.
Shirley Green's there, okay. My co-chair has a class to teach this evening, and that's why she is not here. What we are going to do, I think, is open it up to public discussion. We have put the latest draft of the entire plan online at enfieldleaps.org. That actually went up probably an hour ago. And the edits on that draft versus what is, or what was previously on the website are extremely minor, with the exception of the implementation schedule, which we just worked on a week or so ago. And I think, I hope everybody has had an opportunity to read through the entire plan.
If it was only up an hour ago?
The latest version, which is just very, very minor edits. They're mostly grammatical and a word here, a word there. The basic meaning of the plan has not changed since the preceding version. And the only thing added is the implementation section. So I will open it up to comments from the public.
I'm projecting or sharing the version
Okay.
that's up.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. Is this the one that has 6 parts that goes through vision to implementation?
Yeah,
Visions, land use, transportation. No, it's the new ones are further down.
we start with,
Vision.
we start with recreation.
Right. Recreation's the first new one.
It's page 54 of the
Right.
document, if that helps.
No, I have several things. I have 4 or 5 things listed.
There is,
How do you?
there's a drop down.
Enfieldleaps.org. Am I going to looking up?
You do it, you're going to plan 2. The second, and then you'll have a drop down that's got these 5 or 6.
Actually, I
New
think right
ones.
now, if
Or
you were
did
to
that
go to
change
Enfield
again?
Leaps, it's right there, right at the very top, available for public review.
Right,
And it opens this document right here to consolidate.
Website?
No,
Enfield
Enfield
Leaps.
Leaps,
Yes, I'm at Enfield
right,
Home.
right?
Click on this
You
link.
should see what's on the screen.
And it will launch the,
right,
that page right there.
right.
I'm gonna invite somebody to find this on my phone, because I can't. I have no idea. Can you help me? I don't know what to put in.
Well, I'm showing you right here. This is it right here. So this is enfieldleaps.org.
Yeah,
See that little link right there?
well, that's where I am. And I don't
So you're
see
not on the page. Click on the page.
there.
That one right
Yeah.
there.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that tremendously. Thank you.
So on these 5 chapters, we did work with committees that are essentially existing or pre-existing. So rather than rewrite the wheel, we used the membership of those committees as our prime source for information on what the plan should say. We also took input from the general public at a public forum or charrette that was held last spring or summer, I don't remember the exact date. And we did have a fair number of people show up who looked at the presentation materials and made comments. So we feel we have a fairly representative sample of input from the town. Definitely not as wide or broad a segment of respondents as we had for the first 5 chapters. But we feel it's sufficient to put into a plan, and if there were going to be objections, this is the time for people to make objections or make comments on the work of the committee. So that's what we're here for, and I will take any comments from the general public. Nate?
Nate Miller, I read through all the chapters and I think overall the various committees did a fine job putting the draft plan together. It's well done as a policy document. I think it hits, the right goals for the town and lays out a good framework. I can offer some comments of things I noticed as I walk through the various chapters, if that would be helpful. I did make a few notes here and there.
That would be very helpful.
All right. Chapter 6, recreation. There is a table of parks and recreation facilities in Enfield. It doesn't include any listing of Johnston Drive. Technically, the committee's recommendation and the select board did approve that property being used, at least 3 of those 4 parcels being used for recreational purposes. And the select board did endorse that. So that might be a good thing to include in that list of recreational assets in the town. On 56.
Could I just, a moment, please? I think maybe it would help if Rob
Went to the page.
went to
Sure.
the page you're talking about.
Yeah.
We don't have hard copies of the thing to look at, so I'm really struggling to.
That basically where his cursor is. There's a table with basically a list of parks and rec properties in the town.
Bridget's online.
And I think it would make sense for Johnston Drive to be included.
Yeah, we talked about that, and I'm gonna ask Bridget if she recalls what our final decision on that was. Bridget,
Hello, I'm here. So I do believe it is mentioned within the chapter, because I know we had a conversation around the fact that it is a walk in or ride your bike in, that it's not drivable. And I don't know if it was in this chapter or this table, or if it's later on. I think there's another. Is there another listing, or the map with the key? It might be on there. I think because of. I don't remember exactly where we landed on that. We made sure it was in there and it is mentioned and listed on the map. I believe it should be.
I mean, it is technically a sanctioned recreational property for the town, so.
I don't know if that's true. I thought they.
No.
So,
the committees.
I'm agreed, Nate. I think that, the town did, I mean, it's not going to be utilized in the same way as some of the other ones, but it is a public space that the town owns and people can use as long as they access it appropriately.
Well, I mean, that's for any property.
Clarifying from the trail.
Okay, Whitney has some notes or has the minutes from that meeting.
So it looks like we got feedback from Kevin at the November meeting that because it's technically not a park, it's just town-owned land. The suggestion was not included in the table.
Right. Yeah.
So I thought it was. I could have sworn we talked about it a little bit because we wanted to clarify how it was accessed in the chapter, but I think that's what we use to differentiate.
I mean, I know a little bit about this, having chaired the Johnston Drive Committee, and yeah, the recommendation of the committee was that two of the four parcels be held for recreational purposes for the town, primarily as walk and bike in, with a small number of handicap accessible spaces for people with disabilities. And that recommendation was ultimately adopted by the select board. So it technically is a recreational property for the townspeople to access. Whether or not it's on this list, I'll defer to you all. It just seemed to be missing from my eye.
Okay, I think that's something that we'll take a close look at. What else, Nate?
On 58, this is a minor one.
Yeah.
Under the bottom of that table, bottom left, Whaleback Mountain, there, oh, wait.
Yeah.
They added it. All right,
Yeah.
that must be one of the changes that
Yeah.
was,
Yeah.
one of the last minute
It
changes.
is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So forget that. 61 recommendations. It talks about under, it basically cites the capital improvement plan as being a primary source of funding. Some of the, it is possible, I don't know what the current TIF plan is. It is possible that some of the Hughes Park activities and improvements could be TIF oriented. There's no TIF reference in any of these recommendations. Class 6 roads is missing from the recommendations as it relates to recreation. There's a little blurb in the transportation section about Class 6 roads, primarily focused on development of Class 6 roads or development on Class 6 roads. But there's a section at the end of that section, there's a little sentence at the end of that section on Class 6 roads that talks about recreational value of Class 6 roads, but none of that translated. There's no recommendations or mentions of Class 6 roads as recreational assets for the town.
Yeah, I think.
I don't know how you would structure a recommendation around that, but it was mentioned, Class 6 roads in the transportation chapter were mentioned as a recreational asset. It's just none of that ended up translating into this.
And I think, Kurt, you did a study on that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, that
Yeah.
should be part of that.
Yeah, I mean, that's how they utilized currently.
Yeah.
So,
Always has been.
Going to the next one, sorry if I'm taking too long, I
No,
did read through these.
All right,
68 on historic preservation.
Sixty-four, keep going, hold on. What's there? 68?
Yes.
68, okay, so that's changed a little bit, but the funding preservation portion of 68 talks about a few different programs. One of the programs that might be a possibility that's not mentioned anywhere here is the Moose Plate program for historic preservation. It talks about a couple of different programs, no mention of Moose Plate. That's pretty accessible for municipalities. On to the next chapter. I don't know that this is particularly important, but on 79, this is conservation and natural resources chapter, recommendation section.
Seven, 78, and 79. Here we go.
There's a few different places where it mentions wildlife habitat value, but it doesn't really have any kind of framework for how to evaluate that. I would just note, maybe you can reference it somewhere. New Hampshire Fish and Game has a wildlife action plan where they have maps town by town. You can find one for the town of Enfield of the highest ranked habitat areas. I know Fish and Game likes connectivity between local master plans and some of the work that they've done on habitat prioritization. Maybe there's a way to integrate that by reference somewhere in this chapter, because it's excellent data. It's the best data probably that exists in the state for wildlife habitat.
Mhm.
Can you go back a page for me, Rob? One more page. You've got, that's what I want to say. Yeah, that's the one that I brought up at the meeting and I really have a problem with it.
Which one, Dan?
Lack of community land ethic.
Are you reading?
Right on conservation threats, lack of community land ethic. By some due to lack of education around the importance of environmental stewardship.
I know we talked about that. Whitney, can you find the discussion and see what's in the minutes for us?
Did we just discuss it at planning board?
No, we discussed it at the
Yeah.
public meeting.
Select board.
No, at the public meeting when they brought these 6.
We also discussed this, I'm pretty sure, at our master plan task force
Yeah.
meeting,
That's the one.
the most recent one.
The most recent one, well, the one that was a month ago, that the public was there at.
Yeah,
My recollection is the edit is the additional language on that. It just,
Okay.
the original one, it just said the lack
Yeah,
of community ethic
the original
And then we
one said
added
lack
by
of community
some
land
and
ethic.
the education side.
Okay,
Because there were a few people
that were a little,
that thought it should continue to educate,
right.
right?
Lack of community.
The original one said lack of community land ethic.
And we added the language.
and we added, we
Education.
clarified.
Okay,
And what does
Yeah.
that mean?
Yeah, I mean, that's,
right? Well, that's where I was coming.
yeah, I mean, it's because someone disagrees with you, they have lack of ethics.
Right.
Yeah, that's,
No, that the community does.
Well, community-
Educated.
by some, so some people in the community,
It looks like the
Right.
minutes from November 25th are saying that we just elected to add some language
Okay.
around it. I think before it just said lack
It
of
said lack of
Yeah.
community land ethic,
period.
period.
Yeah, I think that needs a little bit.
I mean, I would just leave, I would eliminate the first line and be, if we can have anything here, lack of education. Because if the person's uneducated, and they don't know about it, that's one thing.
Right.
If the person is educated and just disagrees with you, that's a separate, that's completely separate.
Exactly. Yeah,
Completely different
right.
way of looking at it.
Okay, so we'll try to tweak that. That sentence or 2 sentences.
That's really important.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, maybe just say like lack of conservation education,
Yeah,
something to that effect. Or education about conservation,
Natural resource.
about
Natural
conservation,
resource,
natural resource. Oh, lack of education about natural
about
resources.
natural resources.
Okay.
Which of course is the other thing there. Should it say conservation opportunities or natural resource? Same thing with conservation
Yeah,
threats or natural resource
yeah,
threats.
yeah,
I would
It's
keep it
natural resource threats.
Yeah,
There's other things than conservation and natural resources.
That's really true, you know.
Yeah, I know. We agree on something, Celia.
Believe me, I know. For years of it.
okay. Nate,
I-
keep
couple-
going.
Couple more, 86.
One now. 87. We're going down to 86.
Yeah.
And this is 83, 84, 85. There we are. 86.
And the subject is,
This is a different 86. Okay, roadway maintenance, there we go.
Yeah.
I am strongly in favor of proactive pavement maintenance and upsizing culverts and considering complete streets retrofits. All of this, however, seems more applicable to the transportation chapter than the municipal facilities and services chapter. So, I mean, organizational, you could think about where that piece of policy best lives. In my view, probably the transportation chapter, given what's covered here. 87. in the recommendations piece. So I'm reading the text of this chapter and then looking at that particular one, continue upgrading the water and sewer system, including planning for pump station upgrades, replacing old water and sewer lines, investigating new well locations, and monitor and plan for changes in service. That's all great. The way I read the master plan is that there is nothing policy-wise in the horizon that says there's going to be, at least in the horizon of this master plan, any expansion of the footprint of water and sewer service in the town. And that's fine. It's just the way that this reads.
Yeah.
This is the existing footprint we're going to improve. We're going to make our existing services in water and sewer as efficient and well-functioning as possible. We're not expanding. And that's fine. I'm just saying, is that the, is that what you were intending there? Or are there any known future water and sewer expansions on the long-term horizon? If there are, you may want to have a policy that references that in case there are grant programs that fall from the sky that you want to point to, master plan strategy to help justify a grant application in the future. If not, that this language is fine.
I think at this point, and Rob, you can fill me in on this, that the current plan is to add connections to the existing rather than expand the footprint of the sewer mains. Is that an accurate summation, Rob?
As it stands right now.
As it stands today?
So this language it fits that bill. I was just gonna say, if there was anything, sometimes the master plan is a tool to help get grant funding.
Right.
So, if there was something in the long-term future that the town was considering of a future expansion of some sort, and you wanted to open the door for that, to point to something for grant funding, this would be an opportunity to do that. It sounds like you don't need to do that though, so that's fine.
Except there has been talk of Lapan Circle. Because of the lack of whatever you want to call it out there.
Drainage.
Drainage is a good answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there was talk of Lapan Circle going across the Mascoma and connecting up to McConnell Drive.
I would certainly support adding
Right,
Matt, adding.
yeah, yeah,
Someday, some way, we gotta go around, Shaker Boulevard.
exactly,
Well, I mean, there's been lots of discussions about failed septic systems and things along those lines. And,
yeah,
The manufactured housing on the Enfield Lebanon line.
Yeah.
Is also, I've talked to people in Lebanon, of course, I say back to them, they're like, do not bring that up, like. But that's where we get affordable housing, both Lebanon and Enfield. There's a lot of room there for expansion if they had sewer. They don't have it.
Right.
It's all private septic and the septic systems are
failing.
tenuous. Yes.
Tenuous is a good word, that's a good word.
So, yeah, I mean, that's just kind of, the way I read it is we're not doing that, which is fine.
Yeah.
It's a conscious policy decision that's crafted here.
I think you make a good point, and maybe we need to go back and revisit it.
But it's just another line with an investigate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Investigate the feasibility
Of expansions of the present water and sewer system.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, it could be that simple.
Yeah.
Unless the door is open at that point,
Exactly, and if you go to get a grant, it's in your master plan.
And it doesn't tie you to having to do anything.
Yeah.
Right.
The only
It
other one,
rolls into the natural resources also, if you're talking about Shaker Boulevard.
the only other thing that I sort of noticed was in the energy chapter, there is a section on home heating on page 91 that talks a little bit about, wood as either a secondary or a primary source of heat. And that is certainly true. I think one of the things that you could add potentially as a recommendation, I don't know how much people know about this. We are obviously in Western New Hampshire in a valley. Wood burning stoves in cold, clear winter days, there's a phenomenon known as temperature inversion.
Yep.
It pushes particulate matter to the ground level.
Right.
And it's especially, the lower you are, the worse the situation is. Keene is in a bowl. Keene is sort of the epicenter of this, but it affects all of Western New Hampshire. One of the ways that Keene and other communities in Western New Hampshire have dealt with this is by supporting change out programs for inefficient old wood stoves. Basically, you know, there are DES is sometimes a partner in this. American Lung Association sometimes provides financial incentives where basically, you know, homeowners are incentivized to switch out their inefficient old wood stoves for something that is more efficient and is going to reduce the particulate matter in the air.
Right.
You could have a strategy of some sort in the energy section that just said, support, you know, DES or other partner agencies, you know, in implementing change out programs for inefficient wood burning stoves. And at least, you know, that kind of keeps that on the radar screen because it is an issue in our part of the state and
Yeah.
according to the analysis here, at least some people in Enfield are burning wood.
And the technology has come a long way.
It has.
Yeah,
Maybe,
gasification.
Catalytic converters you're referring to?
Yeah, I
Airtight.
it's hard to keep track because the technology is advancing so quickly in terms of, but I believe it's that sort of technology that's on some of the newer, more efficient.
Oh, gasification in certain situations too. It's really, yeah.
It's not my area of expertise. I just know that issue with particulate matter with wood burning stoves in Western New Hampshire is, you know, has been an issue.
You can see it in Lebanon as you come in.
Yeah.
On the interstate, you can just see those, like a little smog area
Yeah.
over the town.
And it is the worst on, to my understanding, cold, clear winter days and nights. That's when, you know, the conditions for temperature inversion are at their max. So that's all I had. I just, you know, and I'm sorry to take so much time kind of walking through this. I just had read through all these chapters and those were the things that.
No, I'm real glad that you are here and took the time to make these suggestions. I think they're all things that we need to think about and add them in.
Yeah, and again, I just want to reiterate, it's a very good document. You know, these are all kind of, you know, little tweaks to, you know, just things that I had noted, but clearly a lot of hard work went into this. The various subject matter committees did a fine job putting all of this together, and kudos to them.
You know, maybe we're at 98% and your suggestions bring us to 99. And, you know, we aim for 100, but nobody ever gets there. Anyone else have any comments?
Yeah.
Sharon?
So I read through the housing section and I read through the recreation section. I'm very concerned regarding the recreation section that there's very little, like there's two tiny sections that mention the rail trail at all. And it only mentions the rail trail as far as you have to use the rail trail to access Johnson Beach. And the rail trail connects to other places in town. The rail trail, it's why I live in Enfield. The rail trail is a major, unique feature of our community in as much as the lake is. I use the rail trail almost every single day, year round. It is beautiful. It's a natural beauty. It connects to Lebanon. It connects to Canaan. I think the total length is about 60 miles. So from a recreational point of view, it is really minimized in here. And if you want to write grants in the future, or if you want to do things in the future to bring people to Enfield, what does Enfield have that's unique and special? That whole thing is totally missed. The recreation piece is written from, oh, what can, what are all the programs we can offer? So it's a natural resource. And it's totally lost.
I know we cover it in the transportation section.
Okay, I haven't read that
And-
section yet. But it's recreation.
It is.
Yeah.
So maybe we need to beef that up as well.
I would
I
add,
would. People like that. That's a good draw.
That's the,
Rob, can you scroll up a little bit? I was just wondering if you could scroll, yeah, just up, stop. Right below the Shakoma Beach paragraph. I might be seeing differently than what you guys are seeing on your screen, but that whole paragraph about the Northern Rail Trail.
Yeah, runs from
Yeah,
down a little bit. No,
no, up.
the other,
Up,
the
up.
other,
Okay, stop,
Sure.
right, yeah.
yeah, my other down.
And we talked a little bit about this, yeah, because I know we were just talking about the length that was within Enfield in our last meeting. And everything. So I mean, I think we could highlight a little bit more, but I know we do definitely have it in there.
can you tell me what page that's on?
55.
56?
6.
What chapter?
It's
rec.
it's in recreation.
Recreation.
are there any recommendations in there about the sidewalk or trail over to Shaker Village?
Well, it doesn't exist yet.
I know.
Well, no, but it could be
Is it
recommended.
recommended that it exists?
Recommended. Because that also becomes a connection to the Northern Rail Trail also.
Well, and then I think they want to follow up the aborted attempt at that with a new grant or something like that. So
Yeah.
I was just asking if it's mentioned.
It was,
I thought we did.
well, we did, but we couldn't make the deadlines. They wanted shovel-ready projects.
Well, no, I meant, is it in this document as a recommendation that we continue pursuing it, for instance?
Rob, can you scroll down to the recommendation section?
One by, but the recommendations were,
Right there.
So these are pretty broad.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah,
Consider developing, an open space and recreation master plan to help coordinate future programs.
investigate new
New
facilities.
facilities.
Could it be in that in that one right there and we talk
Feasibility,
about?
new recreations, yeah,
I think that's where it belongs.
yeah, nature trails, parks like Lakeside,
Yeah,
yeah.
What's the difference between an open space and recreation master plan, lower left corner,
Yeah,
and this master plan section on recreation?
I would think that the open space and recreation master plan focuses in and is a lot more detailed than what's in this master plan.
When they talk of legally, when they talk about open space, it is undeveloped land.
Right.
It is either a housing development and they conserve a section of the lot not to be developed, or it's like a fishing game property type of situation. Where recreation could be used park or Shaker, Shaker Fields. It's developed, but it's recreational.
Right, I don't think that addresses Tim's question specifically, because he's asking what's the difference between that and what we have in our master plan in this chapter.
I would have to see the paragraph to
Yeah, I mean,
where it's referenced.
Yeah, I really don't, I actually, in thinking about that, I really don't want to, you don't want to have a separate recreation master plan. You might want to have a policy plan or a development plan, but I don't think you want to call it a master plan, because this is your master plan.
I would say, would it be more like a strategic plan
A
in that
strategic
case?
plan for
Because
recreation.
you can
Yeah.
use the master
Yes.
plan, or you can reference the
Right.
master plan within a
Yes.
strategic plan.
Yes, develop an open space and recreation
Strategic
strategic
plan, or
plan,
just plan.
yeah, either just
Either
plan,
way.
or actually, I don't think the word strategic.
No, just plan.
That's too broad. You
Yeah.
want to say maybe a
Right.
capital plan,
capital plan, we could, yeah,
capital improvement plan.
Plan.
wait a minute. No,
Nate,
no.
in the planning world, what would you suggest?
An open space plan has a specific meaning. It is looking, it kind of starts moving a little bit towards conservation properties
Right.
and wildlife
Yeah, yeah.
habitat corridors
Yeah.
and, just a little bit different, but somewhat.
That's more in the natural
Tangential to-
resources.
Tangential to recreation, there's connections there,
Right.
but if you're doing an open space plan, it's it's potentially a good exercise, it's just a little bit.
Outside
it's-
of
It's a little bit different, yeah.
That's more in the, that would be more in the natural
It
resources
was,
Yeah.
chapter.
more akin, to
Mhm.
natural resources conservation. There's a recreation nexus.
Right,
Especially when you start, class 6 roads and some of the open spaces and
Right.
things along those lines. Those properties are hikeable and so there is some recreation nexus there, but it tends to be a little bit more on the natural resource conservation side.
You also don't wanna fragment the
the,
open space.
the open space.
I don't know if that belongs. in.
You don't want to over recreate the open space.
You don't wanna split the land
Right.
down for,
Right,
and cause could interfere with what's there.
wildlife corridors.
If anything.
Yeah.
That's
Even forest, that's a big deal. so.
Right,
if you're trying, if you're looking, for instance, at New Hampshire Fish and Game's wildlife corridors and you're trying to, do what we can to help preserve wildlife movement through said corridor, fragmentation is the biggest obstacle,
Yeah,
right?
right.
So an open space plan could help kind of orient, what the Conservation Commission is doing versus what the planning board is doing in development review and other town boards and committees to all be on the same page about, the big picture related to those things.
yeah,
The other thing I wanna mention about that with the, wildlife corridors and fish and game, there are more than what's on that map.
Hmm.
Because I've been living around them.
Oh, yeah.
They're not on the map,
Right.
so. And other people have, different parts of the town,
Yeah.
So
So
have
it's,
the Recreation Commission met as a group and weighed in on the text of that section and says, we as a commission support and agree. with this.
Yeah,
They have.
Yeah.
Same thing with conservation.
Yeah.
yes. All of the committees or boards and committees, commissions, with the exception of facilities and services chapter, because there's really no functioning committee at this point. All the real legwork was done in committee. So, they may have missed a couple of things that have been talked about here tonight. But anyhow, moving on. Any more comments or questions? Sharon?
don't know. Thank you for asking me. I appreciate that. I do want to just comment that the person who's online, about the, rail trail. Yes, what she said just a few minutes ago about where it was, I found that and I appreciate the wording that was in there. I do kind of question a lot of the things that are in the recreation section for recommendations, such as investigate the feasibility of creating new recreational facilities desired by residents in town. I mean, I think promote what we have, look at utilizing what we have, but to put that in a master plan, I don't know. I don't think we need any new buildings in town.
Well, I don't think we're calling for new buildings. I think this, you know, this is looking forward 5 to 10 years. And we know we've heard, people ask for disc golf or pickleball. You know, there's all sorts of things that people have asked for. And again, remember, this is the 30,000-foot view. So we want to be able to say that we are accommodating those requests. I would not want to take those out. But there's no mandate that we have to go out and build a pickleball court. Unless we get a whole bunch of people that say, yes, we want it, and either we'll make private donations, or we'll get a grant, or the town as a whole thinks it's a good idea, and, you know, we'll do, a budget item for it. So it's the 30,000-foot view. That's about all I can say. Nate?
I would just note, investigate the feasibility of something doesn't mean that you have to do it.
Right.
You can investigate the feasibility of something and to find it to not be feasible.
Yeah.
And, you know, and move on from there. So I don't think that language is, you know, hamstringing the town into doing anything, you know, beyond investigating the feasibility of something.
Exactly.
Yeah. So there's a lot of flexibility in that language, for the town.
Tim, you had a comment? Did I see your hand up?
Well, I do appreciate Sharon's viewpoint on that, though. I mean, in some sort of qualifying phrase about balancing, you know, taxes and services and et cetera might be appropriate.
I think there's language to that effect in, probably in the vision section, which covers everything.
I mean, these are recommendations from the master plan saying, you know, it would be nice if we could do this. And it's like, someone says that, and like, the next person says, yeah, it would be nice, but.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we've seen, what are we looking at?
Somebody's got a hand up.
Bridget.
Who's got a hand up? Bridget, speak up.
I was just gonna mention too, I mean, like you're kind of saying, I also appreciate, you know, Sharon's point of view, and we've heard both points of view. So this is a collection of what we heard out in the community. Not everybody is going to agree with everything that was heard. Everybody has different, you know, thought process on it. But our job, like, you know, you said, David, was to give the 30,000-foot view. This is what we heard. It is a thought process of some people in the town. Maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't, but it's there because we asked for feedback and that's what we got.
If I can just transfer the analogy over to our transportation section. There was a lot of people that said we should plan for complete streets. That doesn't mean we're gonna do it. It's a desirable thing. And, you know, it costs money. It would potentially, you know, cause some disruption in current traffic patterns. And it's something that, you know, from 30,000 feet, it looks good. But when you get down to the nitty gritty, the nuts and bolts, there may be a lot of barriers to it. So Remember, it's a master plan, it's the broad stroke, the 30,000 foot view.
And you're
Sharon?
investigating feasibility. Not going for it, kind of like we investigated the feasibility of having our own sewer plant and said it doesn't work for us.
Mhm.
But you investigated the feasibility. That doesn't mean you build the pickleball. Cause you investigate.
Yeah.
Cause it may be that only 12 people in town want it.
Sharon?
When I was looking at housing, one of the things that I noticed was you were using some, figures from 2021 as far as values of houses and assessments. Wouldn't we have figures from 2024?
Well, I'm sure we do, but we were not working on the housing chapter at this point. And
Oh, okay, so
the housing chapter was done 2 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, what we do is outdated as soon as it goes to press. So that's just a function of time and the ability to get information updated.
So this time you worked on recreation. And what else did you? work on?
Recreation, energy, natural resources, town facilities, heritage, and did I say energy?
You did.
Okay. 5 chapters initially, which were what the planning board felt were the most important chapters to get done. And then round 2, which we've been working on for about the last 8 months, 9 months, whatever, was what we didn't get done the first time. And there were limitations on budget and time, and we just wanted to get a master plan done with the real important stuff, because that opens up a whole world of grant money and sets a direction for the town. That's kind of where we're at. All right.
So I have a general question that sort of touches on what Sharon might have talked about in housing. And Nate, if I may, do you see towns occasionally may have written a master plan and perhaps before it's gotten stale 10 years later, but because of some maybe some turn of events makes it clear to the town that, maybe our master plan really isn't saying what it should, that they go and revisit a section, maybe only one section, change a little bit of wording and then adopt a new plan. I mean, how often do they refresh and revisit?
It varies town by town. I mean, when the first round of HOP grants came through, there were a lot of towns that updated their housing chapter and only their housing chapter of their master plans to reflect current conditions and be more in line with kind of, encouraging housing production. So that happened to some extent a lot. So yeah, like I say, it varies town to town. If a town has a significant change, some of the towns in the southern part of the state tend to be pretty nimble because of the development pressure that they see. Town of Londonderry added, 800 people last year, which 800 people in a year coming into a town is a big number in New Hampshire. And in the course of a 12-month period, they're updating their master plan to kind of get ahead of what the growth trends are and make sure that they're being current, but they're focusing on certain elements of that first, including housing. So it happens. Here in Enfield, the master plan dated back a number of years before the first section of the LEAPS effort happened, and was quite out of date. And so, it sort of, there's no one size fits all. Every town approaches it a little bit differently.
So like in Londonderry, if the town found that the master plan, which that may be fresh and relatively new, but resulted in things happening that really wasn't what we had in mind. They'll go back and make adjustments.
But yeah, certainly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's strictly up to the planning board. And if the planning board, receives a lot of input from the public that says this chapter missed it entirely, or this section of this chapter missed it. Public says, planning board, we want you to dive back in and rewrite this chapter. And as Nate says, it would happen, I think, fairly frequently. The state of New Hampshire recommends, master plans be updated. Is it every 7 years now, Nate?
Yeah, and but there's nothing that stops a town from doing it more often.
Right.
Approaching their master plan more as a living document rather than, okay, at the 7-year mark, that's when we're gonna update it because we've gone 7 years. You could certainly approach it as more of a living document and proactively maintain certain elements of it more often.
Yeah, I mean, that actually is the intention of this master plan. So once we get this, second part adopted, then we go back, we might take a year off, maybe. Do something like a zoning rewrite or whatever. But, at some point in the not very distant future, we will go back and start looking at these chapters and see if they're right. And if they're right, we'll do a little bit of tweaking. If they're not right, then we go back in and we do a reset. The idea, when we started this as a planning board, was that it would be updated on a rolling basis, chapter by chapter. And it would be as Nate calls it, a living document or a document in flux. And that's one of the reasons why we opted to primarily have it in a digital form. I suppose eventually, if the town can afford it, we'd like to have some hard copies that are printed and bound, but basically we look at it as a document that lives on the internet, can be easily updated if needed.
And just to kind of, sorry.
Nate, go ahead.
Yeah. If you look at the master plan as a town-wide policy document, that's what it is. It's a town-wide policy document. The policies in the master plan are intended to inform land use regulations and what is going to happen that affects what happens on the ground. So you have your local master plan that sets the policy, you implement that through land use regulation updates, et cetera. Those land use regulation updates are supposed to tie back into, move the town towards the vision that is spelled out in the master plan. If you no longer believe in the vision that's spelled out in the master plan, then you wouldn't want to update your regulations towards a vision that you no longer believed in. That's the point where you would go and revisit the master plan.
Exactly. Who's Alex? Lindsay. Hello?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. So, first, sorry I couldn't be there, have a class. But I wanted to, as Nate was starting to say, and remind folks that as you're piecemealing this individual chapters, none of them are in silos, even, and the recommendations are just that, they're recommendations. Nothing is binding. The master plan is not a binding document. It's not voted on at town meeting. This is a collection, and we've had chances for input all along the way. So at this point, and it may not, and as Bridget said, not everybody's going to agree with everything that's in the master plan. But there are multiple voices that we heard in different ways. Also, things in the master plan contradict other things in the master plan because communities are complex places. So while we have a chapter that's about housing, we also have a chapter that's about preserving the environment. We also have a chapter that's about wanting more recreation, and we have a chapter about community development. All of those might contradict each other. That's okay. It's how you balance those and in decision making. So, and if you try to start pulling things out or tweaking this language to make it nicer or that, that's too hyper focused on something that's 35,000 feet. These are guiding documents. They then get updated. One of the ways that I've seen a master plan in great use is in Lebanon. They wrote an art chapter. They wanted to start having more art. That didn't mean they just ran out and started, but every time they had a new project that came about through all the other processes, they also said, can we incorporate art into this? So the tunnel project, they then go, now after its completion and it fills other needs, they're having artists paint it. That's how it's used. It's not that they're going to run out and suddenly, put up 10,000 sculptures. So you can't just like pull individual things out and start to hyper focus in on this says this or it doesn't say enough about this. Like it is a big picture, and it's going to get updated. I don't like using the language anything's wrong in there, but priorities change or circumstances change, and is it still congruent with where Enfield's moving? Because we are moving. Where communities are not stagnant places. That's just not how they work. And so I think we've done a lot of great jobs. And so when you're making comments, it's hard to differentiate between like being hyper focused and seeing that big picture. But that's it. Great job.
Thanks, Lindsay. Anyone else online or in the room have any comments before I close the public hearing? What was that? In that case, I hereby close the public hearing on readoption of the master plan. Board members, do we feel that we want to vote tonight? Or do we want to go another round, incorporate a lot of what we've talked about tonight, and then the board would then address this at a different time?
I think we've got to put that stuff from tonight in there or decide whether or not it's going in there, because I don't think we can, if we adopt it, we're adopting what's up on that screen.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
I haven't had the opportunity to read it.
Right.
So I'm not gonna vote. I'm just not prepared to vote on it tonight.
Yeah.
And I wanna read it, go through it very thoroughly, entire document. And take the time that it deserves, because obviously these committees put a lot of time into that, and I wanna make sure that, that I personally give them their due by doing my homework.
So if somebody want to make a motion to table the vote on this to a date in the future?
Well, why even bring it up?
No, we didn't second, there was no motion made, a second. So,
It's just go to the table.
What?
Yeah, there's nothing to table.
All
You
right.
don't have to vote on, when you have a public hearing, doesn't mean you have to vote on it after the public hearing, so.
Okay.
right, it was the public hearing was to take input from the public.
Right,
But I think we should,
And recommendations were made.
but we should all move. Are you gonna be able to get, I'll ask Rob that. Some of these changes, will we be able to get them into a thing for, say, the second meeting in January?
It's not big change.
I know,
I would think so.
well, is there any,
We've been working on this 3 years.
before we set a date on that, I just wanna take a moment to think about what other hearings and work we need to do before town meeting. As I recall, the first section of the master plan, we didn't adopt that until, it seems like it was after town meeting.
No, it was at the end of
it
December.
was at the end of
Was
December.
it?
Yeah.
So. We got the holidays in front of us and.
Right.
Not a lot happens in the rest of December. Said second week in January.
Second meeting, I said,
Second meeting, okay.
because the first one's probably gonna be on the warrant articles.
But it's a matter of getting these changes in there,
And us
getting
being
us
able to read 'em.
notified that the changes have been made so we can read them
Right,
as printed
right.
Yeah, I'd
and
like to get,
agree to the wording.
some hard copies to the board. The rest of you like that, I certainly would.
You can do that, Rob, can't you? Print it
Just
out?
just these five though, not the first five that we're not.
Yeah, we
gonna
checked
Right.
the other.
Yeah, I'm strongly in favor of, the Johnson Drive property being included in the list. If it was adopted by the if that report was adopted by the select board as that it would be recreational property, then it should be included in the master plan. I mean, that was their recommendation, the select board, like I said, if the select board adopted their recommendations, then that's what it is.
Agree?
I mean, they can always
Agreed.
change.
Yeah.
Select board can always change their mind at some future
Right.
date
Right,
and make it something different.
right, because their final thing was that we're gonna look at it again in 2 years.
Yeah.
To see what the use is.
And then, my other thing too, I don't know how to fix this, because I don't know if it can be fixed, I should say. When you're looking on the screen, on the computer, the maps are split.
Yeah.
Can we format that so you're looking at a complete map?
Once we get it, adopted and it's out of the draft stage, I think that can be done. We can do the spreads.
Like, can it be done prior?
Cause it's a lot of work and sometimes the pages change because you add or you subtract stuff. And it's just from a production point of view, it's a lot easier to keep it on separate pages.
Are there any issues with timing and resilience?
Their work has to be completed by end of year.
I would imagine what I can do is
I just emailed you edit.
send the edits
Yeah.
that she's given me, right,
Just put them in the document.
tomorrow morning to.
Yeah,
To Liz and
Yeah.
she can incorporate. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's massive amounts of stuff.
it's not a
No.
lot.
And we've had the public hearing.
Yeah.
So,
So, conceivably, we can address this at some point in January, whether it's the first meeting or the second meeting. My sense is that the second meeting is more likely. So we could tentatively look to that as a date.
then if resilience is done at the end of the month, I'm assuming the other ones are gonna be doing the formatting. So those
Until
maps should be formatted.
until the end of the month, yes.
Yeah, so when we see it in January, those maps should be as the final version then.
I would think so.
Otherwise, it's not gonna happen.
No, we can have our web person do it if we have to.
Cool.
Barbara Jones.
That's almost off what we're talking about.
Yeah,
Formatting is formatting.
so that's technical production
Right.
stuff. Can we end the discussion by saying that Rob is going to email the edits? Hopefully the video will be available within a day or two. So she can refer to that for the discussion. And she will get these edits incorporated before resilience turns into a great big pumpkin.
Well, don't the committees wanna weigh in on
Well, I'm sure the committees are gonna wanna weigh in on it, but because of the time frame that we have
Well, let's
or don't
widen the
have,
time frame.
we can't widen the time frame because the money that's been appropriated for resilience expires or has to be used by the end of the year.
So, and the reason we can't, the reason we're stuck with that deadline is that this document is not just a Word document. It's a
It's an InDesign document.
graphical
Yes,
piece of work that not just anybody can go move words around and.
exactly.
Right. That's the reason we. It's an artificial reason, but that's the reason. We can't make the words say what we want and take all the time we need.
No, I understand that. It's just, but, yeah.
So are we agreed on our path forward?
I'm agreed.
Yes.
Okay, I think we're all agreed. Next, we have select board report. Eric, are you still with us?
I am. For the sake of time, I'll try to be brief and 'cause it's a little harder to do online, but Monday we had public hearings for water and sewer rates, along with an updated fee structure for the transfer station. And then following those hearings, the rates were approved. We also just relevant to this, did a brief review of this year at Johnston Drive, and basically no changes were made. This year went very well over there as the facility, and Nate's correct. The board did adopt that, recreational use thing, and it's just going to continue as is for now, as was recommended, and we'll probably review it again next year. That's where that is. Let's see. Those are probably the most interest to this group, though I'm happy to talk about anything people have questions about.
Any questions on the select board report? Hearing none, thank you, Eric. Rob, land use report, and can you be brief?
I'll be really brief. ZBA did receive a appeal or a motion for rehearing on this special exceptions that were granted for Laramie Farm. They will be taking that up at their next meeting, early January. So that is ZBA. You guys are planning, you know what's going on in planning. The only other thing I want to share with you guys, some of you have already heard, just today, we went down to Concord. Enfield has been named a housing champion community by the Department of Business and Economic Affairs, which is a state department. There were 18 communities in New Hampshire that were so designated. This means that we're now eligible for some grant monies that are coming through that department. It's the same department that's sort of administered the HOP, the Invest New Hampshire, something like 100 million in funding that's been funneled through that organization and out through New Hampshire Housing and
How
Planning.
did we earn this?
So it was a application process. We had to basically show them everything that we do, from our zoning ordinances, stuff that you guys have done. The fact that we have TIF district, master plan, basically very extensive application to sort of show what kind of a community we are, and sort of met with their approval on that. I'm proud to be associated with the 18 total communities. We were one of the smallest communities in New Hampshire that's so designated. The other smallest one was Jaffrey. But mostly it was the big cities, Nashua, Portsmouth, Concord, and Lebanon. So kind of a cool thing, something to be proud of. And I'll keep you guys updated on what we hear. They're going to be coming to us with what kind of grants are going to be available after the first of the year. That's really cool. We're kind of a feather in our cap, I guess, at this point.
So the grants might be something that helps support workforce housing.
Exactly. Yep. Um, That's about it. Only other thing I was gonna say, I will send out the year-end building permits. I was gonna send them earlier, but then I'm like, we're so close to the end of the year, I think I'll wait to get you guys. It'll be the kind of the year-end building permit report, and then obviously we'll start a new one at the first of the year, so you'll see that in the next 2 weeks before the end of the year. That's all. I'll leave it at that, so we can move on to the next stuff.
You don't want to talk about the good news that you gave me yesterday when I came in?
So,
Brewery.
oh, yes. Yes, very good news. We heard from our brewery. The one that, you guys had approved site plan, and we went through some zoning approvals for at the laundromat. As you know, that project had kind of been set back on, the fact that the property was for sale. And the brewer, called me and said, that they have a deal struck. He's found an investor that's gonna help him buy the property. They've got a purchase sale agreement going. And they're now on track for Memorial Day opening next year. So kind of exciting. There's still some issues to be ironed out. But I doubt it's coming back to you guys. It may have to go to zoning for one more little approval for a setback thing, but we'll see. I'll keep you guys up to date on that. But the good news is, it looks like the brewery is back on, so.
You tell them we'll have a parade if they open then.
Awesome. Looking forward to maybe meeting you all after one of these meetings next summer. For a nice cold one.
Okay, any questions for Rob? Okay, minutes from November 20. Any questions or comments?
Of December 4th.
I have December 4th as well. Anybody have November 20 minutes?
Find it.
November 20th was the one we reviewed it at the last meeting, and there were some comments that
Right.
Celie asked to have added.
Yeah.
So I had reviewed the
Oh.
recording and just
Oh.
clarified.
Okay,
Okay, so it's done.
I make a motion
Technically
to
never
accept the
voted.
November 20th minutes as amended.
motion made, who's seconding?
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded. On the November 20 minutes as amended. Eric, how do you vote?
Eric, I.
Linda,
I,
Dan,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
I was in the sitting members, no?
so you're gonna abstain,
I'll abstain because I wrote them.
and I will vote aye. Minutes approved as amended. Minutes for December 4th. Any questions or comments?
I just had found one little thing. Line 106. Postpone November 20th minutes. The minutes needs an S on the end. Minute review. So.
It is,
That's because
so
we did it
that's
quickly.
Correct.
that is
isn't it?
correct, that's minute.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is that I'm an error.
No,
All right. You're perfect.
In that case, would you like to make a motion?
I make a motion that we accept the minutes of December 4th as presented.
Do I hear a second?
second,
Motion made by Linda, seconded by Dan. Eric Russell, how do you vote?
Eric, I.
Linda,
I,
Dan,
aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Kurt,
Abstained.
and Whitney,
Abstain.
and chair votes aye. Minutes of the 4th of December are approved as submitted. Thank you, Wendy, for another wonderful job. Next, HOP grant update. Since our last meeting, Rob and I had a really good conversation with 3 people on the grant steering committee. to try to clarify exactly what they were after. And, they gave us some good guidance. We found out that the $30,000 cap that they had mentioned in their letter was actually a soft cap. So we took that into account. Basically, they wanted us to cut down on the scope of work and focus on housing, and more specifically, workforce housing. Surprise, surprise. So, what we did as far as the application was we decided that the most likely places to develop workforce housing would be where there is municipal sewer. So that focused into Route 4 and Route 4A. And that doesn't mean that we are going to get to all of it, but I just wanted to put that down in the application. I included a map, or two maps actually, one of the sewer system, one of the water distribution system, just as supporting documents. I included the possibility of getting into our site plan regs if additional funding can be made. So, you know, it's probably what, 20 pages, Rob?
Got it over here.
I don't
20
remember.
pages, exactly.
Yeah, it is 20 pages. So rather than try to read all of this, can you distribute it or put it on?
Didn't I send it to you guys? Did you guys get it?
What should we do?
I haven't seen this.
Oh, I thought we sent it. Sent it to you. You got it.
Just me.
Okay.
I sent Tim a copy before I did my final edits.
I'm happy to send this to everybody if you want me.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, okay, no problem. Yeah.
So that's where we are. I got it in probably around 11:30 this morning. By noon, they had responded. And they said, well, we've taken a quick look. It looks like your application is complete. We hope to let you know mid-January. So that's the timetable. Zoning ordinance changes. So at our last meeting, we still had two of the ordinances that needed to be cleaned up as far as proposed language. And Rob's got the ADU, and I think the only change that we needed to do on that was to clean up the language so that the septic installer wasn't moving into the ADU.
Where can one get a copy of this? Cause I don't,
It's not specifically available to the public yet because we're still tweaking it. And when we actually get it approved by the attorneys for the town, then it will be a publicly available document.
And there'll be a public hearing.
And there'll be a public hearing. Yeah, absolutely. So
Our next
we,
meeting, at our next meeting.
second Wednesday in January.
Right.
This will be a public hearing.
okay.
The
And,
8th of January.
and I'm
Which I
sure
believe is
it will
3
be
weeks.
on the website, well in advance.
Second, okay, the second week in January.
Second Wednesday, January 8th.
The second Wednesday is January 8th.
And that
Yeah,
the document will be.
January
available.
1st is a Wednesday.
Second meeting. I'm
No.
Uh,
That's why I clarified for Sealy, it's the second Wednesday is January 8th.
mhm.
And that will be available before the public hearing, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it'll be part of the warning, won't it, Rob?
Yeah.
We have to make what we're talking about at the hearing available to the public. So just as soon as we get the input from the legal people, Rob will have it.
I'll email it to you.
You must get.
I'll send it to you.
Good for you, thank you.
No problem.
Okay,
Yeah, go ahead, Dave.
all right. So where's the part that I changed? I think it's further down. Oh,
You're here in this paragraph, right?
Right.
yeah, right. But it must be installed prior to occupancy,
Right,
period,
period.
because the licensed professional is not going to occupy the ADU.
Unless it does.
All right. So the next one was the,
Oh, wait a minute.
okay,
There's still some problems with this, though. The definition of an ADU in the definition section hasn't been addressed here. And it's not consistent with what the opening paragraph is at the top of this thing. Item 2, definition of an ADU. So if you look in the zoning ordinance, the definition appendix has a different definition than what this says. It's not far off, but it is different. In the just minor formatting issues, it's 422 ADUs. Item 1, item 2 should be then AB. And then we've got, scroll down there a little bit, Rob, that 3 dwelling units within the same structure, that needs to be within that same
Right.
outline format.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then so substantively, all that we've really done to the existing ADU section in the ordinance is change the 1,200 square foot from 800. We also tried to amplify a little bit about the septic system.
but we've changed that significantly.
Right.
Yeah. And then that last sentence there about the building code. Anyway, I think this just needs some more work.
Well, this definition isn't like the one at the top.
No,
It was for conditioned space, right? Is that what it was supposed to say?
Yeah, it
The
should
one
say,
that said conditioned space.
yeah, well, under this, right there, the word conditioned space should be inserted at
Right.
there, just before an error. Right?
Yep. Yeah, I think did you send that to me today?
Well, don't go with what I sent you because I did quite a bit more to this than what Dave was willing to put up tonight. But that's okay. I just think it's a little, it needs more work. But I'm not sure I'm not gonna vote to move it forward as is.
So after definitions, you want to put
Well, you gotta put the word condition space.
conditioned space.
Right.
Is that a PDF?
Up above, it says a dwelling. Here it says a room or space within the thermal envelope.
Right, that is a definition of conditioned space, which is added.
Yeah.
We added that.
Yeah, there's also things in there we're talking about single family homes and the ordinance uses the term one family dwelling. I mean, it's just some formatting and wording inconsistencies that we really ought to clean up. And as much as we're rewriting the zoning ordinance next year, I don't know that it matters a whole lot, but I'm just a little disappointed in this thing.
I think given the amount of time that we have, we either, add definitions, condition space, and let it go to the lawyer, or we just drop it entirely if we're gonna rework it.
I think we should take a step forward,
Yeah,
not drop it.
right. Because you can make non-essential changes at the public hearing without having a second public hearing.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
long as it's not something that changes the overall scope.
Just for clarity.
For clarity's sake, you can change it without having to have the second public hearing. If you
So-
make large changes, you have to have another public hearing.
Are we bound to, we don't vote to move this forward tonight? Is that it? Is this our last opportunity?
No, because we're gonna vote on whether or not we accept it at the public hearing.
I think what Tim is asking is, do we have an opportunity to make changes on this before the public hearing if we don't move it forward tonight?
No,
Yeah.
Is that your question?
no, we don't, because we have to post it.
And it has to go to the lawyer.
Right,
So my personal preference is, let's do the quick edit, which is adding condition space to the definition.
Yeah.
And let's send it off to the lawyer. I'm expecting that he will make some changes.
Yeah.
So we need to get this process going. And as Dan says, if the changes are not substantive, we can make them either before or after the public hearing. Given the calendar, our next meeting is the public hearing.
Yeah.
So it would have to be, changes would have to be made after. And who knows, there might be comment from the public on this, which would require us to do some changes.
Yeah.
So I'm in favor of moving this amendment on accessory dwelling units out of the planning board and onto the attorneys. Are we in agreement?
Yes.
Linda, Dan?
Yeah.
Tim?
Sure.
Kurt,
Yeah, I mean, it's,
Whitney,
Yes, my name is.
Eric?
Yes,
Okay, so Rob, you'll make that change and we'll move this on.
Want to look at the CB?
Let's
Yeah.
look at the CB expansion. What I thought we might do on this, rather than approach it from the point of view of eliminating Route 4 district, I would approach it from the point of view of expanding the CB district and also include the minimum lot size in the CB district. Because the entire article would then relate to the CB district. And that's the text that I came up with. I know this is the first time that the board is looking at this. Fortunately, it's short. And I would like comments.
Well,
it's possible.
I think we're, I don't think this is ready for prime time.
Because,
Right, it's my understanding that maybe Nate could help us out here. What we put up here for an amendment has to be the exact wording that's going to be in the ordinance. That first sentence is, not really the ordinance wording. And then the CB district, both the CB and the Route 4 district are described in the zoning ordinance, unfortunately, in a meets and bounds format. And we have to, if we're gonna expand one to include the other, we're gonna have to alter the meets and bounds descriptions in the ordinance to conform, make everything conform. And then I disagree that we should take the quarter acre, put it all in one ordinance or one amendment. I think that should be a separate amendment. Reason for that is if
You could lose the whole thing.
you could lose the whole thing and I never really even noticed that the CB district, as big as it is through the center of town, was still at a half acre. Imagine that. That's probably the most important thing I see to change right now, is to get that quarter acre. And I'd really love to see that as a separate article. All to say, if we have to prove this tonight, I don't think we're ready to do this.
Anybody have comments or reaction to what Tim has to say?
I mean, I agree. I think the wording on the screen leaves a lot to be desired as far as a warrant article. To just the opening paragraph, reading that does, to me, it's confusing, and I understand what it says. I think the general public would not understand the language, what it's been trying to do.
I am still a little confused here on whether we have the correct thing up on the screen.
Am I correct that if you put an amendment in, you have to put in the exact words of the ordinance that are gonna be changed?
Pretty much. I mean, the attorneys can help wordsmith some of this. I think you're definitely, I don't have the context here. I think that number 2 is a separate question in my view. And number 1 is sort of a separate question than number 2. So I do think splitting those up into separate considerations is probably appropriate. I think the intent here is, there's a clear intent of what this question is trying to do. And I think the town attorney could help wordsmith this in a way, because it is pretty obvious, of what the intention here is. The intention here is to strike the Route 4 district and revert that to a CB district.
Yeah, right.
In terms of how the Route 4 district is defined in terms of meets and bounds and how that gets reflected in the language of a warrant article, I think, the attorney could probably help shape that. But I do think number 2 is a separate question. If you my first sort of gut reaction is number 2. You split these up into 2 separate questions, and then the attorney can help wordsmith both.
Yeah, I mean, well, just back to my point is the first paragraph, including all of its district boundaries. Well, that's, it's just confusing to me how you can have one in the entire zoning district and then put the boundaries are separate. But the district boundaries are separate from that. Because and then back to the zoning district title, but we still have a community business district, so what are you going back to?
Well, so the board can't vote tonight on this language. But we could, I wondered if we could say, this is our intent. Let's send it off to the attorney.
Say do the legal.
Have them come back with the wording.
Yeah.
then base
Yeah.
the hearing on that. Can we do that?
Yeah, I don't think the attorney's gonna write this for us. They're gonna say this doesn't fly, as worded. It's not their job to tell us what we want. They review what we present to them and say if it passed muster or not. They're not gonna rewrite it.
Well, no, but they're going to say what you need to change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I made an attempt at crossing all the Ts and dotting all the Is. We don't have that up here, but we could send that and this.
Right.
And say, okay. Make the right sausage out of this.
Exactly. But I agree, the second one's gotta be a separate,
Yeah, they're
gotta be a
they're
separate
unrelated,
here.
right, unrelated.
Yeah, exactly.
Rob, do you have the?
You're trying to do two
Email I
things in
sent
one,
you.
I'm gonna go get it, and you have to do the
Oh, you
two
don't
things
have
in
to
two
count
separate.
Yeah.
I can't find it. It may be on my server. It's not on my laptop.
Will somewhere you be defining why you think this is a,
It'll be in the
Why-
narrative,
okay,
yeah, it'll be in the narrative.
Yeah. Yeah, as far as including the meets and bounds description, I would suggest that that would be similar to the floodplain update that we did 2 years ago or 3 years ago, where the state or the feds gave us, I don't know, it's probably 8 or 10 pages of language, which is obviously way too much to put on a warrant article. And we just did a reference to another document. And I think,
It was posted on the wall.
yeah, I think because the meets and bounds description can be rather lengthy,
It's about a
that
half
we should
page long.
use,
Yeah.
use a similar,
It's not really that big.
technique.
Not for an individual district, yeah, it's not really, yeah, about a half page.
So our final decision on this is what?
Make it 2 articles and send it to the,
Make, send
Legal.
it to the lawyer?
if
And
he,
if
does-
they-
and if it doesn't, if he can't, if he says it doesn't work, then
Then we drop it.
we drop it. I mean, I think the bottom one's gonna work. That one's very specific.
Yeah,
To change, if you don't get rid of the Route 4 district, then the CB district would become quarter acre.
mm-hmm,
Yeah, the only thing I did slightly different from David is I went back and looked at the R1, R5, or no, the R1 language where we changed it to quarter acre,
Right.
adjusted a couple of words to fit that same formatting.
Yeah,
Relatively minor, but
yeah, I mean, the language, the wording should be similar throughout each zone for the quarter acre.
and that was pretty simple, but
Can you change that, Rob? To get it to the lawyer, just use the same wording as, yeah. So if we get half of it done, half of it approved,
we'll call that
that's
a win.
something, that's something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we're decided on that. New business.
well,
Go ahead, Linda.
I'd like to talk about, you asked us last time. There was a discussion about whom to have award the HOP grant to. And now that we've seen the other interviews, are we still deciding that, or does that come later?
I'd kind of like to put that off and see if we actually get the HOP grant.
Aha,
rather than spend, rather than spend 20 minutes discussing the pros and cons, and I'm sure it is going to be a lively discussion, because I think we all have our own opinions.
You think a thing like that?
I know this board. I've been working with you folks for a long time.
We also need to ask the three candidates for new proposals based on the new budget.
Yeah,
And that may involve, one-on-one conversations between you and whoever with them about what they think they could do for
What could you do for X number of dollars?
the way I would like to approach that is send them our revised proposal and say, this is what we submitted for our grant proposal. Can you accomplish what we are asking you to accomplish with the available amount of money and do a good job at it?
Yeah, so you're gonna do that anyway, right?
That is the plan.
Yeah.
Um,
Unless you need our approval, but I don't think.
I mean, I think we discussed that at our last meeting and the board was generally in favor of doing that. And it just couldn't really be done until the application was finalized, which happened at 11 o'clock this morning.
Yep.
And the select board's going to be the one that accepts the contract or not anyway, so.
Well, they'll based on our recommendation, hopefully.
Right,
Hopefully.
hopefully.
So that's where we are on that. I mean, if the board really wants to have that discussion tonight, or we could do it, but we've been here for 2 hours. And the rain has probably turned to snow or sleet or something nasty like that.
And we'll pick the one who can't do the job anyways,
Exactly.
the amount of dollars.
Exactly. So let's get some feedback from the prospective contractors and we can go from there.
Okay.
And by the time we get the feedback and schedule this onto an agenda, we will probably know how much money we have to play with.
Yeah.
Public comments, members of the public?
I know you already passed the zoning language that you were going to submit to the lawyer, but in the first frame that you showed having to do with accessory dwelling units, I didn't understand the language. That was number 4. I don't know that we can go back to that. I know there's going to be a public hearing, but the language had to do with something to do that if there was an accessory dwelling unit, and the main dwelling are exempt from district acreage density requirements. That seems pretty broad, that somebody can come in, to me, just translating it as a resident.
That's state law. It's state law
What is
What
state
is it?
law?
that you basically, if the dwelling itself is exempt from the acreage, you can't say by adding an accessory dwelling, basically it's covered already. It's grandfathered. That's what it's saying.
But if just say my property.
Yeah.
If my property fits the density requirement or the acreage for my zoning area.
Yeah.
And I added an accessory dwelling building.
Yeah.
I have one over my garage, so it's
Yeah.
part of the property.
Right.
If I put something, I have 3/4 of an acre. I could put something next to my house. But
Yeah.
then does that mean that, I guess I'm just concerned about how somebody's gonna interpret that, and what they might think that they can put in, and that you can't stop them. Maybe it's just my confusion.
You actually can't stop them from putting accessory dwelling unit by state law,
Well, attached.
attached.
What we're saying is that, whether it's within the building or it's attached or it's detached.
Right.
Either one of those scenarios, you can't use the R1 density restrictions to limit
Right.
the number of ADUs you have.
And that's concerning. Because of how much that could grow and how much that could change.
Right, but state law, the problem is it's the state law.
Well, it's not the state law. The state law is only one ADU. We're permitting up to 3.
Right.
Well, yeah,
That's pretty
but 3 becomes multifamily.
No, unless it's
No.
3.
Oh, I'm sorry.
They're,
There's two separate.
Yeah, never mind. Withdraw.
standalone.
two ADUs, two ADUs.
So what's the?
We already have 2
size?
ADUs, right?
We already have two.
So, Karen, we already allow 2 ADUs on a property.
Right.
I don't know where I said 3. I meant the main house, 1 ADU either attached or within and 1 ADU separate,
Right.
right?
Right,
So,
or both attached.
or both attached. Yeah. So that's as big as it would get.
But I guess the way that I'm reading that is somebody could have a detached unit.
Yep.
And there's no restrictions on how big that unit becomes.
1,200 square
Yes,
feet
there is 1,200 square feet.
Per unit.
per unit.
That's up in the
Where does that say?
That's up top.
north there.
Yeah,
the top.
that.
Keep going,
There,
Right there.
right there, 1,200 square feet.
Okay, no more than 1,200.
Right.
Yeah.
That helps me.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
No, thank you.
Anyone online have any public comment? Hearing none. Our next meeting is January 8th, 2025.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Eric, how do you vote?
Aye.
Linda? Dan,
Yes.
David, yes. Tim,
Yes.
Kurt,
Yes.
Whitney.
Yes.
We are adjourned at, looks like 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock.
On the button, 9
9
o'clock.
o'clock. Sitting here too long.
I feel like I've been going since like 4 in the morning,
I've been doing.
which I probably have, yes.
I can send a 2-year-old your way if you're up at 4.
Sure, go right ahead.
You have any idea why?
High school, and they wanted to be a very.
Oh.
Actually, I know a lot. I heard some speculation. Well, that was my, because he dropped everything. And I saw it on the slide board, it was like, everybody gone.
Happy holidays to everyone.